as usual, we are gathered here again to listen to another dispensation of the Lord Buddha's teaching. The true doctrine that prevails over all, that is true for all of us, true for all sentient beings. And we have today been blessed with another opportunity to redeem ourselves from the shackles that we are tied with to samsara. Before we commence this sermon, then, let us take a moment to remind ourselves that it is because of the supremely enlightened One, the perfect One, the unvanquished One, the undefeated One, the undefeatable One, the supremely enlightened Lord Buddha, that we have this Dhamma today. It is because of His infinite sacrifice in samsara, dedication that exceeds all dedications, commitments that exceed all commitments, through which He sacrificed Himself over many millions of eons with one quest in mind, and that was to liberate all sentient beings, which includes you and I, from samsara. Reminding ourselves of the virtue, the infinite virtue in fact, the infinite concentration, and the infinite wisdom of the perfect One. Let us all take a moment to pay homage to the Lord Buddha. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. And as usual, before we commence the sermon, let us all take a moment to observe the 5 precepts, bearing in mind, as I remind you always, that we are having to observe these precepts. Let us consider this a privilege rather than a right. We are having to do this because we are still defiled with raga, dvesha, moha, these defilements which continuously, incessantly, relentlessly lead us to committing unmeritorious deeds, unwholesome deeds through thought, speech and mind, or thought, speech and action. And this is why again we are having to observe the 5 precepts. But in observing these precepts, I want you all to make a firm resolve that may this have to be the last time I have to observe these precepts. May the virtue contained within these precepts become the very fabric of my conscience, and may through the observance of these precepts I be able to have the mindset that is required in order that I can understand anicca dukkha anatta and liberate myself from samsara. So, with that resolve in mind, let us take a moment to observe the 5 precepts. You can all recite after me. Buddhaṃ saranang gacchāmi, Dhammaṃ saranang gacchāmi, Sanghaṃ saranang gacchāmi, Dutiyampi buddhaṃ saranang gacchāmi, Dutiyampi dhammaṃ saranang gacchāmi, Dutiyampi sanghaṃ saranang gacchāmi, Tatiyampi buddhaṃ saranang gacchāmi, Tatiyampi dhammaṃ saranang gacchāmi, Tatiyampi sanghaṃ saranang gacchāmi, Saranagamaṇaṃ sampunnaṃ, Pānātipātā vēramaṇī sikkhapada samadhiyāmi. Adinna veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Kamesu miccācara veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Musavada veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Surameraya majjapama datthana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Tisaranena sadding panchasilang dhammang sadhukang surakkitang katva appamadena sampadeta. Okay, may all be seated now. Also, before we commence, let us take a moment to invite all the devas, brahmas, spirits, demons and the dead, our ancestors who have predeceased us, those very ancestors who will have been our mothers, fathers, brothers, uncles, aunts, sisters, nephews, grandparents, so on and so forth, those who have always been by our side, always been through us, through the tough times and difficult times of our lives, been there to help us and guide us in whichever way and shape or form that they could. However, with their death, what they bid farewell to was the Sambuddha Shasana, a human life through which they could have attained Nibbana, but alas, that opportunity has now been lost for them. You and I, we still have this opportunity because our precious lives are still with us. We have the gift of Dhamma, thanks to the Buddha, the Dhamma and the Sangha. So before we commence this sermon, let us invite all those who have predeceased us, all those ancestors who were there by our side and helped us in any way, shape or form. Perhaps some of them might have committed unmeritorious, unwholesome deeds on our behalf. We might have saved, or we might have been saved on those occasions, but through the demerit that they acquired, perhaps they have now been born in the woeful plains. Therefore, it is now our duty, our responsibility and our obligation to invite them to join this sermon, this occasion, to witness this meritorious deed, in order that they may rejoice in the merits that we will be generating, and may through the power of these merits they be able to redeem themselves from those woeful plains. Let us also invite devas and brahmas who eagerly look forward to listen to sermons, to listen to the Dhamma, to associate the Mahasangha, to recognize the greatest qualities of the Buddha. Let us provide them with this opportunity. Let us invite them to join us, rejoice in this meritorious deed, and also listen to this sermon. Understand the true nature of all existence, the anicca dukkha anatta, the nature of all existence, no matter where beings are born in these 31 realms of existence. And may they all be able to use the power of these merits to attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. So, let us all take a moment to invite all those beings that we have just reminded. And now, as I make the invitation, I request you all to extend that invitation in your hearts and in your minds. Open your hearts, open your minds up. May they join us. May they witness this meritorious deed, redeem themselves from the woeful plains, be born in the blissful plains, and may they use these merits, the wisdom that they acquire through these sermons, to attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Samanta චක්කවාලේසු අත්‍රා ගච්ඡන්තු දේවතා සද්ධම්මං මුනිරාජස්ස සුනන්තු සග්ග මොක්ඛදං ධම්ම ශ්‍රවණ කාලෝ අයං භදන්තා ධම්ම ශ්‍රවණ කාලෝ අයං භදන්තා ධම්ම ශ්‍රවණ කාලෝ අයං භදන්තා. And also, before we commence this sermon, let us all remind ourselves that throughout our infinitely long journey in samsara, we have not always had the privilege of associating with noble ones and moral ones. Virtually, almost always, our associations have been with ignoble, immoral people, the asat purushas who defiled our minds with raga, dvesha, moha, desire, aversion and delusion, and having been blinded with avidya and tanha, ignorance and attachment. Innumerable and infinite other times we may have offended the Aryas, the noble ones, the Samma Sambuddhas, the Pacceka Buddhas, the Arahata Buddhas, Anagami, Sakurdagami, Sotapannas, be they on the path or having attained the fruits. Such desecration, abuse and slander that we might have directed towards them through our thoughts, speech or action may today block and hinder our progress in the Dhamma. So, before we commence, let us all take a moment, accepting and acknowledging the fact, this is who we have been, genuinely accepting that fact, this is who we have been in samsara. Not saints, but evil, immoral, ignoble people. And in our associations with moral and noble people, we may have often offended them. Let us all take a moment to seek their forgiveness. And finally, before we commence the sermon, I request you all to make a firm resolve, a firm determination that may through the course of this sermon, if there are any gaps in your understanding, your knowledge, your comprehension, which you require so that you can redeem yourselves from the four great hells once and for all, and achieve the attainment or the first attainment of Sotapanna, may you all be able to do that through the course of this sermon. If there are any among you who have already attained that stage, then may through the course of this sermon you be able to fulfill the subsequent stages and achieve the supreme bliss of Nibbana. So with that firm resolve in mind, I request you all to prepare yourselves to listen to this sermon. Okay. Why don't we just talk about the elephant in the room, right? And then we can move over that after we've done that. So you can see I'm not in a great state. I've been quite indisposed over the last few weeks. Went through a terrible time, but slowly recovering. But something I do believe in is, although my body is suffering due to illness and wounds and things like that, my mind doesn't have to suffer because of the same things. There's only one thing that makes the mind suffer, and you should know what that is by now. What is it? Attachment. So let the body suffer. The body and mind are not one and the same, are they? No, so let the body suffer. I don't have to suffer. And it is painful to be here right now. But if you remember, I made a promise to you back when we were doing sermons at Alanmatiniaram. I think when we were doing our very first sermons, I promised to you that for as long as you want to listen to these sermons, for as long as there's at least one person here, and for as long as my heart's beating, I'll be here. You can decide whether you want to be here or not, but I'll be here. So I made a promise to you, and I can't break my promise, so I'm here. If I have to take a break in the middle of the sermon, then please excuse me. So, that's all that we need to talk about that. Although it has been a talking point quite a lot at our monastery, and I don't let opportunities like this pass by, because these are good opportunities for us to remind ourselves of where we are, what we've come here to do, how infinitesimal we are in the grand scheme of things. We are nothing in the grand scheme of things. Even the slightest things can knock us dead. Well, I'm not dead yet, so aren't I lucky? So whenever we have these young novice monks, and I have been attended to by almost all our monks at the monastery, for which I'm very grateful. But I don't let an opportunity pass by, because whenever they come and give me my medicines or attend to me, I do ask them a question. I ask them, Swamin Wahansa, what do you think's happened to me? Why do you think this has happened? And so they start thinking. So of course they mustn't be rude, right? Because they're talking to a Loku Swamin Wahansa. They say, Swamin Wahansa, you have to be careful when you walk about. You might cut yourself. You have to be careful. Perhaps you weren't careful enough. I said, no, you got it wrong. Try again. Did you hit your leg somewhere? No, just keep trying. And then once they have exhausted all the answers they can give me, I say, no, none of them. The reason I'm going through this right now is because I did unmeritorious deeds. That's why. Can't you see? The Dasa Kusal and Aripuvada. This is why I'm in this state today. I'm not proud to say, but that is the truth. Unmeritorious deeds and Aripuvadas. Be forewarned. So I also then ask him another question. I ask them, Swamin Wahansa, do you think I protect my Shiksha Pada more than you do? My precepts more than you do? So I ask these young monks, okay? And they tell me, yes, Swamin Wahansa, I think you observe your precepts and you protect them more than we do. Okay. I say, do you think that I meditate more and listen to sermons and practice the Dhamma more than you do? And they all say, yes, Swamin Wahansa, we think that you do that more than we do. So they tell me this. So then I say, if that is the truth, look at me. Someone who observes the precepts and abides by those precepts and practices in the Dhamma, does their meditation, and this is what has happened to them. So what's going to happen to you? If you're telling me you don't abide by your precepts as much as I do, what if this same karma comes to you? How is it going to pay you? Are you ready? Is what I asked them. So I don't let a good opportunity pass by. And I don't want you to miss that opportunity either. This is why I say, ladies and gentlemen, just being in robes doesn't mean the problem's been solved. For as long as we are in this samsara, we have to be accepting of all that comes our way. We don't know where it may come from. Left, right and center, top and bottom, from behind. You don't know where it's going to come from. But the good thing is, we can make this the last time. Do you all want to make this the last time? Okay, I'm going to ask you a question then. You have to be honest. Because if you're not honest, then you're only fooling yourself. Put your hands up if you've ever been beaten up at school. I was, so I'm going to put my hand up. Okay? I'm going to talk to you now, Putta. Do you remember that incident? Okay. Do you remember his name? Okay. He came to meet me. I knew you were going to put your hand up. He visited me recently. And he talked to me about you. He said, he related the story. He said, this is what happened. And then I got really mad. And then I smacked him. So he related all this. He related the story, which I'm sure you will know. So you don't need to. I don't need to say it back out to you. You should know what happened. And then we discussed for a long time. And then when he was about to leave, I asked his name. I don't usually ask people's names, but I asked his name. You remember his name, right? Is it Tanha? That is the name he gave. He said his name was Tanha. By the way, he wanted me to pass you a warning. He said, if he ever catches you again, he's going to beat you into a pulp. Oh, and he said he knows all of you else well. What's his name? Tanha. So who did this to me? Tanha. Who beat me up at school? What's his name? Tanha. Ever had your fingers cut when using a knife? When you were holding the knife, who pulled the knife? What's his name? Tanha. Ever knocked your leg somewhere and cried an whole day? You wounded a finger, perhaps broke a toenail? Happened to you? Who put the rock there? What's his name? Okay, ladies, what's her name? Tanha. Ever had a serious infection and been bedridden for days on? Who put the bug inside of you? Tanha. Tanha. Every single time it was Tanha. That's his name. That's her name. I have a big grudge with Tanha. This is what he did to me. It was he who did this to me. Every time you have suffered in your lives, ladies and gentlemen, it was because Tanha got in your way. If anyone's ever abused you, shouted at you, what's their name? Tanha. We don't have fights to pick with each other. You're all very innocent. I don't have enemies here. I don't have enemies anywhere in this world. There's only one enemy I have. And what's his name? Tanha. Every time I was hurt, a couple of years ago my grandmother died. What's the name of her murderer? Tanha. That's why I cried that day. Tanha. Every single time it was Tanha. So we don't have any fights to pick with each other. It's Tanha that we need to sort this battle out with. And where does this Tanha live? Well, we need to go and find the bugger, right? Before he starts to beat the hell out of us, we've got to beat the hell out of him. Where does he live? Yes. He lives in your mind. She lives in your mind. You go to bed with her every day. You go to bed with him every day. He or she is just waiting for you to fall asleep so he can suffocate you. Tell me if I'm wrong. What happened to your grandfather? He died in his sleep, didn't he? Or your great-grandfather? Tanha suffocated him. Waited for that moment when he was asleep and then suffocated him. Tanha's just waiting for that moment when you're not keeping watch. Be careful when you walk on the roads. There may be thorns, nails. It's Tanha who keeps putting them there. So you can go and tread on them, you can hurt yourself, and then start to suffer. We don't have any bones to pick with anybody else, ladies and gentlemen. It's always Tanha. Who got you here? Who brought you here? Tanha. You have all been cursed. You have all been cursed with birth. Have you not? Have I not? This is not the first time I've had to suffer like this. When I was at the age of 13, 14, I remember going to school with both my arms and legs bandaged from top to bottom. Because I got an infection. It was a viral infection. They called it impetigo. There were little spots that appeared all over my limbs. The doctors tried to treat me, but didn't go away. And then finally they said the only thing we can do with this is to burn them. So they gave me a bottle of acid with a little brush. So what I used to do morning and night is with that brush, dipping it into that bottle of acid, I used to burn myself. Burning those little spots all throughout my legs and my arms. So what would happen is, when you burn them, they become fresh wounds. And then they start to ooze. So what happens? You have to wrap yourself up with bandages. Because of course you can't skip school either. Now that you're here, you've got to play by the rules of the game, right? So you got to go to school as well. But the thing is, I used to go and spend 8-10 hours at school, and then once I got back, due to the heat and everything else, these bandages these wounds had dried up, but with those bandages intact. So now what I have to do is pull those bandages out, and when I do that, all those wounds become fresh wounds again, tearing bits of skin every time I pull those wounds, those bandages. At the age of 13, I went through that. So if you're not 13 or 14 yet, then be warned, it's coming. Just be prepared. What else can you do about it now? How old are you, Buddha? And you do just wait. It's coming. What can you do about it now? Nothing. You've been cursed. Now you have to suffer. Whatever comes your way, you just have to embrace and accept. Nothing you can do about it. I went through that treatment for a whole year before I was fully recovered. But hey, countless are the times when we've all been through things like that. How many times have you bitten your tongue trying to eat something up? That was fun, wasn't it? Did you sing a song when that happened? Yeah, a rude one. Who brought your two chins together? Or who put your tongue there when you were biting? What's his name? Tanha. I am sick and tired of this tanha. I am so angry with tanha. I hate tanha. There are two things in this world it's okay to hate. Avidya and tanha. Hate them with all your heart. The thing is, they live in your heart. They live in your mind. So hate them with passion. Every time you cried, every time you wept, every time you lamented, every time you were bedridden with bed sores, every time you nearly missed a heart attack or just survived a heart attack, every time you got splitting headaches, every time you got griping stomach aches, every time you wanted to go to the toilet but couldn't. Remember sitting on the pan? Trying to, but not going? Was that fun? It was tanha all along. No one else to blame. If anyone ever hit you, his name's tanha. Her name was tanha. Anyone ever scolded you, his or her name was always tanha. So deal with it. Fight back. It's time to retaliate. Have you heard of the Anamatagga Sangyukta? There's a discourse, there's a Sangyukta in the Tripitaka. And there's a discourse called I think it's called Tinnattaka, which is discourse number 1 in the Anamatagga Sangyukta. It's quite fascinating. The Buddha gives a simile, or rather a metaphor, to describe how long we've all come in samsara. He says, monks, if you were to travel the entire world and collect every blade of grass there ever is, every tree from every leaf there ever is, you can ever find, every little twig from every tree, every branch from every tree, collect them all, pile them up, and once you've done that, chop them all up into bits which are only 4 inches long, and then line them up one after the other. So you have twigs, you have grass, you have leaves, you have branches, all these things. And then as you line them up, here's what you got to think. First bit, my mother. Piece number 2, my mother's mother. Piece number 3, my mother's mother's mother. Or rather, my mother, my grandmother, my great-grandmother, my great-great-grandmother, my great-great-great-grandmother. You get the idea, right? He says, if you engage yourself in this process, you're going to run out of twigs and grass and leaves and all those bits that you chopped up. But you will still have mothers of mothers left to count. As I was reading out this discourse to a young Samanera monk who came to me and who was attending to me, so I try and give them the Dhamma in return for what they give to me, which is their kindness, and I treat them back with the Dhamma. Something else came to mind. You know, the Lord Buddha Gautama, when he was a Bodhisattva, when he started to fulfill these perfections, first he started by doing this through making a mental resolution, mano pranidhana. And then he started to make a verbal affirmation, I am going to become a Buddha. He used to say this out to other people, I am going to become a Buddha, I will do this. And then later on he started to practice through body. So through mind, speech and action. Mano pranidhana, vachi pranidhana, kaya pranidhana. He fulfilled the perfections. The Buddha says on one occasion, ladies and gentlemen, just think about this for a moment. He says, at the flash of a second, he looks back at this journey that he made, filling these perfections, and he said, I have come past 512,000 odd Buddhas. 512,000. That's 5 lakhs 12,027 Buddhas I have come past from the point I started to fulfill my perfections. That's not the nerve-wracking bit. It's what he says after that. He says, I was able to look back at my past and see that I have come past 512,000 Buddhas. Now, as you know, there are some kalpas where there are no Buddhas. Those kalpas are void of Buddhas. We live in a Bhadra kalpa, in which we have the advent of 5 Buddhas. We have already gone through 4. There's going to be one more, and that's Maitri Buddha. So this is a Bhadra kalpa. But for every kalpa that there is a Buddha, there are many hundreds of thousands of kalpas where there are no Buddhas. And for those for those of you who don't remember how long a kalpa is, or an eon is, the Buddha again offers a simile as well. He says, if you were to take mustard seeds, how big is a mustard seed? It's tiny, right? If you were to take mustard seeds and fill a large container, how large is it? 16 miles long, tall and wide. So length, width and breadth, 16 miles in each direction. And you fill it up with mustard seeds, not footballs, mustard seeds. And then once every 100 years, someone comes along and removes one mustard seed from that box, from that container. He says, this man will have removed all these mustard seeds, but a kalpa will have not yet expired. An eon has not yet expired, will not have yet expired. That's how long one eon is. So imagine, if there are many hundreds of thousands of eons where there are no Buddhas, can you imagine how much the Buddha's power might have been to look back at the flash of a second and say, I have come past 512,000 Buddhas. When the majority of eons are eons which are void of Buddhas. That's also not the awe-inspiring bit. It's what he says after that. He says, monks, that's how long I started to fulfill my perfections. But I can't look at any of you that's sitting in front of me, look back at your past and tell you when you started this journey in samsara. If he was able to look back 512,000 Buddhas, and the time that it took for them to come into this world, in the flash of a second, in 2 flashes, how many years would he have been able to look back? 100,000. And then in 3, 1,500,000. In 4, 20,000. So what? Did he not have the time to do that? So here's a supreme Buddha who's looking at you and I, and he's saying, no matter how far back I look, I could take an hour and look, I still can't see when you started this journey in samsara. Can you imagine how long we've come in this journey? Can you even begin to imagine? And then he says finally, every time you came into samsara, whether as a human, a non-human, so that's a preta, an amanusha, or a deva, or most of the time in the 4 great hells, every single time the reason you suffered was because of ignorance and attachment. These are the only 2 reasons why you suffered every single time. How many times might you have mourned the death of your mothers in samsara? How many times might you have mourned the death of your father in samsara? You remember how tough it was this time round, wasn't it? Can't you? When you had to say goodbye to your mother, your father, this time round? Well, how many times have you done it now? Infinite number of times. And are you telling me you're still okay with that? This time round, we all have an opportunity to put a stop to this. Avidya and Tanha standing behind your back. I don't know if you can see them. I can see them behind each of you. There's ignorance on your left, behind your left shoulder. There's attachment behind your right shoulder. Just waiting to stab you. If you walk towards somewhere there's a bit of somewhere there where it's slippery, they're just waiting to pull your leg. So you fall. Break a neck, break your back. Just waiting for that opportunity. Are you okay with that? Then it's time to fight back. So what is it that why do we then still keep going to bed with ignorance and attachment? Why do we keep going to bed with avidya and tanha? Because we don't see the danger. We haven't seen how much they can do to us. We haven't still seen their full potential. That's why. This is why every sermon we continue to talk about ignorance and attachment. What else is there that we need to talk about? This is my question to you. If it's ignorance and attachment that has brought you suffering every single time, what else do we have to talk about? Did you listen to last week's sermon? It was streamed on YouTube, I think. I made an important point during the sermon, which I would like to remind you if you didn't have a chance to listen to it. And that point was, true that the Buddha delivered lots of sermons, 84,000 Dhammaskandha, 84,000 discourses. The Vinaya contains some of it, Sutra contains some of it, and the Abhidhamma contains the rest of it. Each of these, of the 84,000, was directed towards an individual or a group. But it was to their mindset that the Buddha delivered that sermon. Otherwise, if one discourse was sufficient to help redeem all beings from samsara, then he could have just stopped at Dhammsakpayatum Sutra. He could have stopped at that. But no, after the first sermon, he went on to deliver his second, then the third, the fourth, and so on. He didn't stop until he had delivered 84,000 discourses. Why 84,000? Because there are 84,000 different mindsets. Every man and woman are different. But in terms of how we look at the world, in terms of our mindset, in terms of our perspective, there are 84,000 different flavors. 84,000 different variants. So for each variant he delivered one discourse. Now, here's what we need to take from this. When you listen to a sermon, if Nibbana is what you aim to achieve, having listened to the sermon, having understood the sermon, if you can see that this does lead me to Nibbana, the path to Nibbana is clear, I would suggest that at that point, you stop looking for other avenues. When have you seen in the Tripitaka where a monk or any person that has taken an instruction from the Buddha delivers a sermon and the monk goes, okay, that's all great, what else do you know? When does a monk ever ask the Buddha that question? What else do you know? Tell me, what else do you know? Yes, I understand that sermon, give me another one. Have you ever heard of a monk do that? No, if he were to do that, then he's going to get scolded, he's going to get told off by the Buddha. Don't come and ask me for more. I've given you what you need, now go and practice. That's what he said. So likewise, when you have listened to a sermon, ladies and gentlemen, and everybody here I'm saying, once you have listened to a doctrine, and it's clear to you that this does lead me to Nibbana, Raga ke, Dvesha ke, Moha ke, this is the path to rid myself of all types of vexation. If that becomes clear to you at one point, then I would suggest stop looking for other paths. Because you have just discovered your path to Nibbana. That is the discourse that the Buddha gave for your mindset. That's why that made sense to you. Because if it didn't make sense to you, then that's not the discourse that was given to you. But alas, you've been cursed again. Wanting to know, wanting to find out. Because of our desire to want to know, or because of our want to know, because of our want to find out, our desire to need, or rather our need to know, our need to finding out what's going on. You don't stop your quest of trying to find out new paths to go to Nibbana. You only need one. All of the other paths were for different mentalities, different mindsets. If one has made sense to you, then that was the discourse that the Buddha gave for you, for your liberation. Then walk the path. That's all you ought to do. Not look for another one. Because if you go looking for another one, you're wasting precious time. You have to walk the path to reap the fruit. Not stand by it. You have to walk the path. Discovering new paths is not going to bring you any fruits. You have to walk the path. So what do you think needs more of your time? Discovering new paths or walking the path that you have discovered? Which do you think you need to dedicate your time to? Absolutely. It's walking the path that has been uncovered for you. The reason that we as monks have to study the Dhamma really is so that we can help you find paths to Nibbana. Because one discourse might work for you, Puta, but perhaps not for you, madam. So we need to go and study the Tripitaka, find out new information, read about other discourses and study them and analyze them and come and deliver sermons to you. But I've already found my path. I don't need to go looking for other paths. The path to me is clear. But what if when someone's there to do that job for you, if you're going to do it as well, well, you might as well be the teacher then. This is not to say don't go read the Tripitaka, by the way. It's okay. But what I'm saying is, don't experiment. The Buddha's doctrine is not to experiment. It's to understand, to comprehend, and follow. Before you start following, though, it has to make sense to you. But that's not an experimentation. If one path has become clear, then walk that path, not go experimenting, oh, are there other paths as well? I'm going down this path, but next door neighbor, she's going down another path. Perhaps I should go and walk that path with her as well and see where that takes us. That's a waste of time. Because that was the path that was paved for her, not for you. So if a path has become clear, then walk that path. Because that is what's going to take the most time. To discover the Dhamma takes a long time. 4 incalculable eons and 100,000 more. This is the minimum time it takes. Remember, Gautama Lord Buddha was one. As a bodhisattva, his wisdom was greater than effort and samadhi. There are other Buddhas whose samadhi is greater than wisdom and effort. And then there are other Buddhas who have greater effort than wisdom, or rather bodhisattvas who have greater effort and wisdom. But ultimately when they all achieve Buddhahood, then they're all equal. But in their bodhisattva stages, there are different faculties in which they are stronger than others. Our Buddha, Gautama Buddha, his strongest faculty was the prajna indriya, wisdom faculty. This is why he was able to discover the 4 noble truths in 4 incalculable eons and 100,000 more. Another Buddha that comes along, for whom his stronger faculty is going to be Shraddha or Virya, it's going to take him 8 incalculable eons and 100,000. And when someone whose Shraddha or conviction faculty is greater than the other 2, that's going to take him 16 incalculable eons and 100,000. So he's done the hard work. It takes a minimum of 4 incalculable eons to discover the 4 noble truths. This has already been discovered. Don't go looking for it. Don't go on another discovery. It's been found. What we need to do as Shravakas is not try to become Buddhas, is to become Arahants. If you want to become a Buddha, then well, hey, be my guest. But it's going to take you a minimum of how long? 4 incalculable eons and 100,000. That's the minimum requirement. If you're ready for that, go ahead. I'm not. The hard work's been done. I've got the easy job to do. And when doing this easy job, which is to become a Shravaka Buddha, there are 2 bits to this. One is to understand the doctrine. The second part is to follow the doctrine, to practice the doctrine. Which of these 2 is the more difficult one? Understanding or following? Following. Because this doctrine of attachment, vexation, relief from vexation, pleasure, right? Perhaps there are a lot of you who will have understood that by now. But understanding itself is not having achieved the fruit. Now you have to practice. And that takes resilience. That takes great courage and effort. This is where a lot of people are lacking. Just ask yourself, remember, I think a couple of weeks ago, or the week before that I asked you, a lot of people come and complain, we don't have time like you, Swami Nuances. You live in the monastery, you have 24/7, you can practice the path, but look at us, we have lots of things to do. So it's not right that you blame us all the time. Right? Cut us some slack. I said, okay, I'll cut you slack. So they say, I have my job to do, I have my children to feed, I have the dishes to wash, I have my clothes to wash, I have to wash the car, I have to do this, I have to service my car, MOT the car, this, that and the other. I said, okay. So you never watch TV then, do you? Oh yeah, I do that sometimes as well. So what about that time then? Which of these has become the bigger concern to you? Watching TV or attaining Nibbana? If you are watching TV for the sake of pleasure, and you have understood that there is no pleasure to be found in watching TV, then what do you think you're supposed to do now? Yes, even he understands it. You want me to cut you some slack, Buddha? Don't fool yourselves. Seriously. Don't kid yourselves. You're kidding the wrong guy. If you're kidding yourself, you're kidding the wrong guy. You're fooling the wrong guy. Kid anyone else, fool anyone else you want, but don't fool yourself. Because once you fool yourself, there is no refuge for you. If you are someone who always comes up with excuses for why you can't practice the path, you're just kidding yourself. I'm not going to lose. Are you going to lose out, madam, if I kid myself? No. If I'm fooling myself, are you going to lose, Buddha? No. Only you are going to lose out if you kid yourself. How badly do you want to do this? Is my question to you. This is a war. You can't go to war like a puny soldier. You have to be a steadfast soldier. You have to be ready to fight. You have to have courage. This is a war. Not the biggest war of the century. It's the biggest war of samsara. If you keep running away, every time you run away you're going to lose. But one day you're going to have to fight this war. If you're not prepared to fight, then you just have to live like a slave. Are you prepared to be slaves? Well, you are already. You don't have to prepare, you are already slaves. Slaves to what? Ignorance and attachment. Slaves. So, let's make a firm resolve. Don't come up with excuses, ladies and gentlemen. Remember the story I gave you several weeks ago about that lady? How much courage she has to practice the path, despite all those things that are going on in her household, despite how her spouse treats her, the things that her children are going through, how despite all of that, she fights this battle like a lone warrior. That's the kind of people who are going to cross this ocean of samsara. Are you that kind of person? That's the question. It's not your looks that matters. I don't care whether you wear glasses or not. You could go blind. I don't care less. That's not what matters. It's the courage in your hearts. Are you prepared to fight this battle? If you are, then let's fight. If you're not, then you've just taken up someone else's seat. You've just taken up someone else's seat, someone else who could be here, who wants to fight. Don't do that. So if you want to fight this war, let's fight. And I'll show you how to fight this war. Because this is something I do every day, every waking moment. What keeps us bound to samsara is attachment. Attachment to pleasure, ashvada. Attachment is what? Tanha. Attachment to pleasure, ashvada. This is what keeps us bound to samsara. In fact, when we say bound to samsara, it's really not samsara that we are bound to. Or what you might think as samsara. Samsara is nothing other than really this process of generating pleasure. That is what samsara is. Sangsara. Avidya and tanha. Sara. Essence-full. Meaningful. That is what sara means. Sang, avidya and tanha. Ignorance and attachment. So, throughout samsara, what we continue to do is continue to seek pleasure in the world that we live in. With a distorted view, a distorted mindset, that pleasure is to be found in the sights and sounds and smells and taste and touch. And the thought objects that come into our mind. Rupa, Shabda, Gandha, Rasa, Sparsha, Dhamma. In the distorted view that pleasure exists in the outside world. Now there may be a few newcomers here. So I'll explain this to you in one or two examples. Look at that bunch of flowers over there. There's this bowl of flowers just over here, hanging by this thread. Or this rope. When you look at it immediately, you're going to see flowers of different colors and you're going to say, oh, that's beautiful. That's pretty. Don't you feel that? It's beautiful. Beautiful flowers. Then one might go, actually, no, they're not beautiful. The yellow ones out there are beautiful. Others will say, no, the roses in front, that's what's beautiful. These are not really my type. You have a type, don't you? Everyone's got a type. So when you see beauty in the outside world, this beauty you want to bring into your inside world. Because remember, the beauty in the flower can only come into your world through your eyes. Any other way this beauty can come into your world? No, it can only come into your world through your eyes. And the only things that come into your eyes are light waves. Waves of light, right? So light that bounces on those flowers, come into your eye, goes through your pupil, hits the retina, then you have the upside down image, that goes to your brain, turns it right side up, and then your brain sends an impression of what you have just seen to your mind. It's through the mind that you see the flowers. It's through the mind that you recognize that these are flowers. Is it the mind or the brain? It's the mind. It's the mind. It's the mind through which you learn that these are flowers. You begin to see the beauty in flowers. It's through the mind you do all this. So when you can see beauty in a flower, and your mind then says, hey, that's beautiful. Let's continue to look at it. What else has beauty in this world? Let's all go look at all those things that has beauty in this world. Now the mind wants more and more beauty. Let's go and see all the beauty that we can see. Let's go and listen to all the beautiful songs that there are. Let's go and eat all the tasty foods there are. This is the mind craving. Craving for this. But remember, we couldn't put the flower into the mind. light couldn't be put into the mind. It was the impression that the brain left on the mind that went into the mind. It's a bit like this. If you worked with computers to any extent, you'll know that no matter what information goes into the computer, it could be a song, an MP3 file, it could be a picture, a JPEG file, or a Word file, or whatever. Ultimately, on a disk, they're stored as what? Binary. Zeros and ones. So your computer can only take zeros and ones, no matter what you throw into it. You're reading your Word document, and that has a sentence. It's got a William Shakespeare poem on it. But does the computer know that it's a William Shakespeare poem? No. All the computer knows is zeros and ones. That's all the computer knows. So similarly, your mind can only take in 5 things. That's Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankhara and Vijnana. And I'll tell you what these 5 are. Rupa are these sense impressions. So for instance, when you're listening to a song, you can hear something, right? That's why you say you're listening to it. Your ear, through your brain, leaves an impression on your mind. I'm listening to something. That's how your mind knows it's something that's coming from your ear. Can you fix the lever? When you're eating something, your tongue leaves a sense impression on your mind. A sense impression of what? Smell, right? Taste. Taste. This is how your mind knows, I have just received something from the tongue. This is a taste. Is there anything in this world that you know of that is not one of these 6? Or one of these 5, let's say. Sight, sound, smell, taste, touch. Do you know of anything that's not one of these 5? Do you know of anything that's not one of these 5? I'll add the 6, which is Dhamma, which are thoughts that come into the mind. Because one might say, well, what about love? But now you know love has a color, don't you? We talked about this a couple of weeks ago. Why love has a color. And how you've all been fooled. We've all been fooled. But love itself does not have a color. It's a feeling, it's a sentiment. Women's rights. What color is that? What taste is that? What does it smell like? Women's rights? No, it doesn't have a smell. So these are things like that. These are conceptual things, abstract things. These are things that are perceived by the mind. They don't come through your eyes, ears, nose, tongue or your body. However, that concept has to have come from your eyes or through your ears. But once it comes in through your eyes or ears, that concept is now part of, it's a Dhamma that the mind is able to consume. Okay? Are you all following me so far? So that concept has to come either through your eyes or through your ears. This is why even the concept of Samma Ditti cannot be given if you are deaf, if you are blind. This is why if you are deaf from birth, if you are blind from birth, then you can never become a Sotapanna. Not in that birth anyway. If you are deaf by birth and blind by birth, you cannot become a Sotapanna. Because why? Samma Ditti or Anicca Dukkha Anatta is a concept that has to be given to you by someone who has understood it for themselves. And to be able to give you that, it has to come through your eyes or through your ears. Because Anicca Dukkha Anatta does not have a taste. Not that it has a color or a sound, but it is through sound that we communicate. Right? So it's language. It's for that purpose that, this is the only way you can perceive this. So anyway, so these are the 6 ways in which you experience the world. Is there any other way you experience the world? Do you know of anything that's not a sight, a sound, smell, taste or touch or a thought? Anything? No, it cannot be. If there is, it's never going to be part of your world. You can't say that it doesn't exist. It's just not part of your world. What if there's another planet on which there are beings who have a seventh sense, and they're able to pick up a seventh impression? I can't even describe it because I can't begin to imagine what it might be because I only got the 5. But think about Brahmas. Brahmas who live in the Rupavachara Brahma worlds. In the form, in the Rupavachara Brahma worlds, they don't have a tongue or a nose or a physical body like you and I do. A solid body like you and I do. They don't have anything like that. But they have eyes, not solid eyes, not muscular eyes like you and I do. But they have a visual organ. They have an auditory organ through which they can look and they can listen. They can hear. So to them, if you were to say, do you know what a cake tastes like? What are they going to say? A cake what? Like? Will they understand what taste is? No. What does a fish know about land? Not much. Because a fish can never perceive what land's like unless you take a fish out of water and put it on land. So a fish is never going to know what land's like. Likewise, a Rupavachara Brahma is not going to know what taste is like. What is taste? It's not a concept that they're going to understand. Recently I got to watch a video on YouTube about this gentleman who was born blind. And he describes how he experiences the world. So someone gives him a banana and says, what is that? So he, obviously he's blind, so he can't see this object, but he feels it and he says, that's a banana. And then they ask, what color is it? He's blind from birth. He's blind by birth. And he says, well, I'm informed that it's yellow. Someone said it was yellow. He said, what's yellow? I don't know. They said apparently there's a thing called color, which people like you are able to perceive, but I can't. I don't know what color is. Some people talk about transparent and translucent. I don't know what any of those things mean. But you talk about a color. I don't know what that is, but you tell me that a banana is yellow, so I'll say a banana is yellow. So likewise, there may be other things in this world which we can't perceive. Aren't you glad that you can't? Okay, to answer this question, why do you think you have a pair of eyes? Is it a blessing? People think that. It's a blessing. The reason you have a pair of eyes is because you're vexing. You're vexing to look at sights. In your last birth, the last thought you had was a thought that was vexing to look. Look at sights. And because you were vexing, you had to be born as a being who had a faculty that was able to look at the world, so that you were able to relieve yourself of vexation. That's why you have a pair of eyes. It's not a gift. It's not a blessing. I'm ashamed that I have a pair of eyes. I'm ashamed that I have a pair of ears. I'm ashamed that I have a tongue that can taste. You're probably thinking, he's gone mad. Do you understand the point I'm trying to bring across to you? The reason that we have these 5 faculties, eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and this sensation of touch, is because we are vexing. We are vexing to know what the outside world is like. Remember the beetle leaf story. When I say beetle leaf and you ask me what is that? What if you didn't have eyes and I said, look, it's one of these. And you go, what do you mean? These, can't you see? What do you mean see? Now you're going to be vexing. He said, see, what does that mean? Is that something I should be able to do but I can't? And you go ask your friends, hey, can you see? I can see, can't you? Now you're going to be vexing. Someone else can see, you can't see. How do you feel? Why are you okay with the fact that you can't fly? Because no one else can fly. The day you see another man with wings and start to fly, what are you all going to do? Go get plastic surgery. Why? Get a pair of wings so you can all fly. When someone else is able to do something but that I can't, now vexation. So eyes, ears, nose, tongue and this sensation of touch, all these organs we have received to relieve ourselves of vexation. We should not be proud about it. We should be ashamed of it. When an arahant dies, which of these 5 faculties is he born with? Eyes, ears, nose, tongue or touch? Which one? None of them. Why? No vexation. When a being becomes an anagami and goes into the Brahma worlds, they don't have what? A nose, tongue and a body. So compare them to us. Aren't we better off? Well, on the surface it seems like it, doesn't it? They've only got the 2, we've got 3. I mean, we've got all 5. We've got 3 more than they have. So to have more than someone else has, isn't that a good thing? Just think about it. So a Brahma an Anagami Brahma, he or she doesn't, well, they don't have he's or she's there. An Anagami Brahma does not have the faculty of taste or the faculty of smell or the faculty of touch. The reason for that is because they don't vex. There is no vexation to want to know what does that smell like. They don't want to know what does it taste like. If you were to find an anagami human being and said betel leaf, they might go, show me. See? What does it smell? What does it sound like? This is how it sounds like. Okay. Are they going to ask, what does it smell like? No, they're not going to want to know. Are they going to ask, what does it taste like? No, they're not going to want to know. What does it feel like? They're not going to want to know. They have no desire, there's no craving to know what does it smell like, what does it feel like, what does it taste like. But those beings who are still members of the sensual world, the karma worlds, for us, we want to know all of it. What does it taste? What does it look like? What does it smell like? What does it sound like? What does it taste like? What does it feel like? So the reason that we want to know what all this is like is because we believe that they have pleasure. Sight has pleasure. Beautiful flowers. Flowers, beauty is part of the flower, is it not? Which of these 2 flowers are more beautiful? Which one's more beautiful? Is it the yellow ones or the white ones? Which one? Why do you all have different answers? Question. Why does one find roses more beautiful than violets? Why? Why do some like rock music and others like classical? Why? Because if beauty is in the object, if beauty is in the sight, if beauty is in the sound, then we should all feel about the same. We should all feel the same about that sight, that particular sound, that particular taste. Then we should all like chocolate eclairs. But not everyone does. We should all like strawberry cake. But not everyone does. If we visited each of your homes, we should all find the same cake in each of your fridges. But are we going to find that? No, you're all going to have a different cake. One's going to be vanilla, the other's going to be strawberry, the other's going to be chocolate. So then how can a pleasant taste be part of the cake? How can it be in the taste? Because if it's in the taste, then that taste has to be there in we all have to be able to enjoy that pleasure that's in that taste. But that's not the case, is it? So it's a very subjective thing. This is why they say beauty lies in the eyes of the beholder, not in the object. So what is beautiful, what is pretty, what is nice, what is sweet, what is, oh darling, all these things are very subjective. They live with us, not in the outside world. It's our perspective. So we have defined, each of us, we have all defined what beauty is. What's beauty to you is beast to another person. Yes or no? I'm going out with her. With who? Her. Are you serious? Why? Look at her. She's gorgeous. I don't think so. Why? So how is gorgeous then something that's in the figure? Which part of a girl is gorgeous? Which bit? Is it the hair? Is it the skin? Is it the nose? Is it the ear or the earlobes? Which tooth is the gorgeous tooth? Because if gorgeous is in the lips, then what you have to do is chop the lips off, and then now you have gorgeous. Take it home with you. It's not there, it's not in the object. So what is it then? This is the question. So you should know this by now if you've been listening to sermons for a while. When someone puts this view into our mind, they plant the seed of ignorance. Or rather, they plant this seed that a certain thing, a certain object has pleasure in it. Ashwada is in the Rupa. Ashwada is in the Shabda, in the Gandha, Rasa, Sparsha, or sight, sound, smell, taste and touch. Pleasure is in the sight. Pleasure is in the sound. Pleasure is in the taste. When we are of that belief, what we do is we go and seek that pleasure, to bring that pleasure into our worlds. Because where has pleasure got to be? Out there or in here? In here, not out there. So if pleasure's out there, then what we have to do, what is our quest in life? Bring pleasure inwards. Why do you do jobs? Answer that question. To do what to pleasure? Why do you all work so hard? To bring the outside pleasure inside. Yes or no? If it's just survival, do you have to work weekends as well? So why do you work overtime then? Is that just for survival? Or are you still trying to bring pleasure that exists in the outside world into the inside world? How long have you been doing this? What success have you had of trying to bring outside pleasure into the inside world? I tried that myself. 30 odd years I tried that. Doing all sorts of things. Working hard, studying hard, playing hard. Tried to bring the outside pleasure into the inside world. Only to find ultimately that there was no pleasure to be found in the outside world to bring into the inside world. But hey, here's the thing. You know, you can spend 10 years doing a job, okay, and become a billionaire. Some of you might. Okay, let's make it a bit more realistic. Let's say become a millionaire, 10 years in a job and become a millionaire. At the end of the 10 years, you begin to ask yourself, why am I still not happy? I'm still having to do things to be happy. I can't just be and then happy come to me. No, happy's out there. I have to go looking for happy. You've just spent 10 years to become a millionaire. Now you're so happy that you got yourself your million. And you're saying, okay, so with this million I can bring happiness into my world. Eventually, you get to listen to a sermon and you realize that actually happiness was never in the outside world. Now, I challenge you, I dare you, go and give the million back to your company and ask for those 10 years. Go and speak to your boss and say, hey boss, I just realized that these 10 years I've been working for you. I've been earning money to bring pleasure into my world, but pleasure is not in the outside world. So, here's your million. Can I have my 10 years back, please? What's he going to say? Are you mad? You can't buy back time. That time's gone. I particularly say this because there are a lot of young children here today. Parents, you may be just beginning to start, or you may be just beginning to understand the reality of what we talk about, the depth of what it is that we discuss here when we do these sermons. But for your children, perhaps you've already still, you've still built those dreams, palaces in which you want to see them become kings and queens. Perhaps that's the world you've built for them. But remember, one day, if they ever realize that pleasure was never in the outside world, you're going to be cursed again. This time it's going to be your children. My parents had no excuse. My parents, they could be excused because they didn't know. They didn't know. They taught me what they knew. Puta, work hard. Study hard. Earn a lot of money. Go and be a rich man, be a powerful man, be a successful man, and you will be happy. That's what they learned from their parents, and that is what they taught me. But you have no excuse. Sorry, you shouldn't have come along to this sermon. Now you can't deny. Now you know that pleasure is not in the outside world. What do you need money to buy? Inside world or the outside world? You need to buy the outside world. You need money to buy the outside world. Why do you buy the outside world? What do you mean? What do I mean by outside world? Let's break it down to simple terms for those who this might be new. What do I mean by the outside world? Cars, houses, right? What else? Things you like to eat, TV, flowers, toys, right? All these things, they're all part of the jewelry. All these things are things you buy from the outside world. So this is what you need money for. I don't deny you need money to eat, sleep, treat yourself when you're ill, and clothe yourself. These are the 4 requisites which are true just for me as much as it is for you. So I need to be fed daily, I need to be clothed, I need to be washed, and I need to be treated when I fall ill. So there's no difference there between you and I. But I don't do a job now because I have stopped buying the outside world for anything beyond that. Okay, answer this question. Are you willing to bring me alms, or are you willing to make donations to this monastery if what I want to do is watch TV all day? Are you willing to spend any money at the monastery if what I want to do is go and just eat all day? Eat cake and short eats and all those things that you like to eat, if all I do is eat every day, right? Eat all day, every day, watch TV, play cricket, watch cricket, right? If this is what I do all day, every day, are you prepared to bring me arms? No, of course not. I wouldn't bring myself arms. No, you wouldn't be prepared to bring me arms. So the reason you're prepared to bring them to this monastery is because you have a belief that the monks who reside at this monastery, as well as all the other monks on the entire planet, they're all working towards bringing the outside world in, but only for the 4 requisites. Beyond that, there is nothing that the outside world can do for us. When sights don't have pleasure, what good is for me to watch a TV? Tell me. What can I gain by watching TV? If TV has only sights and sounds don't have pleasure in them, what can I gain by watching TV? Is there anything for me to gain by watching TV? Does it fill my stomach? Does it quench my thirst when I watch TV? Do I get a robe around my body when I watch TV? No. None of these things. So what does watching TV bring me? Absolutely nothing. All it does really is just put drushti into my mind. Distorted views about the world. Because the TV is part of the world. So, what does the world do? Continue to advertise the world. Come and enjoy the world. That's what the TV says. Isn't that what your TV says at home? TV say at home, come and enjoy the world. There's a beautiful world out there. Come and enjoy. Okay, now maybe you only listen to Buddhist channels, perhaps. But all the other channels, of the 100 channels that you can watch on a pay package, how many channels actually tell you that the world is not worth living in? Versus those that say, no, this is the best place to be. Aren't you glad you're here? Let's enjoy. Isn't that what TV tells you? Isn't that what your mobile phone tells you? Isn't that what Facebook tells you? Half the time? More than half the time. Isn't that what the internet tells you? I'm not saying there's something wrong with the internet, because the internet can be used for good things, like spreading this Dhamma. How do people get to listen to these sermons if not for the internet? But the thing is, within our minds we have ignorance. And ignorance is nothing other than accepting that pleasure is there in the outside world. When you are prepared to accept that pleasure is there in the outside world, now you have to go and buy bits of the outside world. Can we not switch on the fans, please? So when pleasure's in the outside world, we have to bring the outside world into our inside world, and for that we need, what do we need? Money. This is why you do jobs, and you work hard, and you do your overtime. You work relentlessly from day to night. This is why, to bring the outside world into the inside world. This is why you would like a promotion. When you're on 40,000 pounds or 40,000 rupees a year, promotion comes along, 55,000 rupees, right? Let's get it. What does it require me to do to get there? Oh, you need to work an extra day a week. Oh, of course. You don't need to ask twice. Because what does it give you? The power to buy the outside world. And why are you so keen on buying the outside world? Because of what? Pleasures in the outside world. Ignorance. Do you see how human life that you have so difficultly, having gone through so much hard work and labor and turmoil, have by some luck managed to get this human life that you have just managed to get, you keep spending on trying to buy the outside world? Where did you spend most of your life? Think about it seriously. Was it at home? Or was it at school and the workplace? It's time to think. Most of your meaningful life, right? The last part of your life, well, they don't want you at work anyway, so they kick you out with a retirement package. But most of your viable life with which you can do something for yourself, where did you spend it? From the age of 5 and 6, where did you spend your life? At school and the office, at the workplace. Because the world said, you have to buy bits of the outside world. To buy bits of the outside world, you have to earn money. To earn money, you have to study. So, from the day the child comes into this world, what is the parent's biggest dream? How do we get this child into a good school? So that eventually they can buy bits of the outside world. Human life? Human life? Good 13 years you spent at school. And then university. I mean, who goes to school because they like to go to school? People go to school because they have to go to school. Children go to school because they have to go to school. That's why I went to school, because I had to go to school. So who goes and does a job because they like to go and do a job? If that's the case, then you could work every day. Why do you need a break? If you love to do it so much, then you should do it every day. If you really like working, do you need to be paid? When you volunteer for something, right? Do you volunteer because someone forced you to, or because you like to do it? You like to do it. Is that why you get paid to volunteer? No, you don't get paid to volunteer. Why don't you get paid to volunteer? Because you'll do it out of your own volition. You like to do it. You enjoy doing it. This is why you don't get paid. If that's the case, then why do you get paid to work? You don't like the work. You like the dosh that comes at the end of it. You like the money that comes at the end of it. That's what you like. But why do you need the money? So you can sleep in it? So you can fry it and eat it? No, why do you like the money? To buy bits of the outside world. Why do you like to buy bits of the outside world? Because there's pleasure in the outside world. Rotten to the core, don't you think? This whole system is rotten to the core. It's like living in the Matrix. Have you watched the Matrix? You're all living in one. You've all been plugged into this Matrix. No freedom to think. What should I be doing right now? No, you don't have the time to think about that. Why? Bell. School. Such a fast life. They've taken away your power to think. That's why everything's now pre-programmed. All these systems are now pre-programmed. And what parents do is push you into one of them. One of these lanes. And you go down that lane. You go as far as you can go. Sometimes you topple and fall over. Then you decide, no, that lane's not for me. Let me go pick another lane. Then you go and choose another lane. And then you start running on that. But all these lanes were pre-designed, pre-programmed, not for your good. Is to keep the world going round. You, ladies and gentlemen, are the fuel that keep the fire burning. You are the fuel that keeps the world turning. You. How does that make you feel? Yay, I'm such an important man. I keep the world turning. Is that how you feel? This is slavery in daylight. They have taken away your power to think, your power to reflect, intelligent thought. They've taken it all away. Because now what people do is they put specific questions in front of you that you have to solve. How do I bring a child into this world? Who put that problem into your mind? Society, right? How do I bring a child into this world? Now you brought the child into this world. How do I give this child a good upbringing? Who put that thought into your mind, that problem into your mind? Society did. Then as the child, how do I get myself a job? Well, for that first you have to study. So what subjects do I have to choose? Well, these are the subjects. Now choose. You see, the question has been brought in front of you. All you have to do is answer those questions. Very specific questions. You don't get to choose the question. That's where the problem is. You don't get to choose the question. The real question you should be thinking of is, why am I here? But do people allow you to ask that question? No. What is my purpose being here? No, we haven't got time for that. There are very specific questions that have been put in front of you. Answer them. Which school do you want to go to? Which subjects do you want to do? What university course do you want to do? Which university do you want to go to? What do you want to be when you grow up? When did any adult ever ask a child, Buddha, why do you think you are in this world? Why do you think you're here? Where do you think you've come from? As a young child, every time an adult met me, every time they only asked me, Buddha, what do you want to be when you grow up? Isn't that true for all of us? What do you want to be when you grow up? That's what everyone loved to ask me. What do you want to be when you grow up? What subjects are you going to do for your O-levels? What would you like to do for your A-levels? Oh, okay, Sara. That nursery rhyme's been written about you. When I was just a little girl. Who asked me? My teacher asked me. That's how I remember it. I asked my mother. Thank you, sir. I asked my mother. What did I ask my mother? What will I be? Right? And then what the mother said was? To see what will be, will be. So don't look at the future. What will be, will be. Just carry on. Don't ask questions. that was what was being taught there. Don't ask these questions. What will I be? What am I here to do? No. Don't ask those questions. What will be, will be. That's what you learned at nursery school. Don't ask questions. Don't question why you are here. Don't question what you came here to achieve. Just let it be. What will be, will be. Rotten to the core. That's what it is. This entire system is rotten to the core. You came here, now you've been wound up, tied up, bundled up, bagged up, and you're being beaten left, right and center. And sometimes you don't even know it. Sir? Except for very few people. Serving? Yes. That's right. 5% control 95% of the world. So it's that 5% that decide what the 95% has to be doing. Do you think you are the 5%? I remember a little while before I ordained, there was a documentary that I watched on TV. And in that documentary they revealed that all of the companies in the world, all these big branded companies, that ultimately if you look at their parent companies and if you follow that line up, I think they're owned by a handful of companies. Banks. What do banks do? I worked in one, so I should know this. We make money out of you. That's what banks do. How does a bank make its money? By lending you money? Sorry, by taking money from you, borrowing money from you? No, by lending you money. Putting you into debt. And then you pay back. You now dedicate your lives to sustaining the top 5 or a handful of companies. I've got nothing against them, by the way. Okay? So this is not an attack on the big company, because I've got no battle with the world. I've got no fight to or bone to pick with the world. Remember, who did this to me? Tanha. Not the bank. Tanha did this to me. Why am I here? Tanha. Because of attachment. I didn't realize I was signing that contract. I didn't read the terms and conditions of that contract before I signed it. Whose fault is that? My fault. When you complain, what's the first thing customer service says? Well, sir, you signed the terms of the contract. What terms? Did you not read? Well, they said it was okay and just sign it. Tough. You signed it. Likewise, you and I, we all signed this contract without taking the time to read the terms of the contract. In the terms of the contract, they said, Jatipachya jara marana shoka parideva dukkha domanassa evametassa kevalassa dukkha khandassa samudayo hoti. It said that in the terms of the contract, but we didn't stop to read. All we saw was, oh, jati. What jati? Pleasure jati. There's so much pleasure to be had in the world. This is the trap we all fell into. It's like the rat that got caught in the cage. That bit of cheese was the lure. That bit of cheese was what drew that rat into the cage, into the trap. Once in the trap, now it's helpless. So the only way out of this trap is how? to find the cause as to why we are in this trap, and then to read the cause. Read the cause, and the result will take care of itself. We don't need to worry about the result. People cry every day because of death, disease, decay. This is why I said, I'm not going to cry because my legs hurt. Let the leg worry about that. My mind doesn't have to worry about it. Mind worries because of attachment. Body worries because of injury. Mind worries because of attachment. Not one and the same. So the mind doesn't have to worry about it. Let the body worry about it. Of course, I'll treat the body, but let the body worry about it. But the reason I came into this world with this wretched leg was because I was attached to Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana. So as I was saying, a computer will only understand binary. You will read letters, you can see pictures, you can see all those things, but the computer only knows ones and zeros. So your mind only knows Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana. So in English that would be form, sensation, identification, formations, and consciousness. Those words have to me no meaning. I'm sorry. The English terms to me have absolutely no meaning. But those are the terms. This is why it's so difficult to preach in English. But we'll do it. For as long as you want to listen to it, we'll do it. Rupa. What's Rupa? Again, let's come back to what we were talking about. What's Rupa? Form. This is Rupa. Rupa comes into our mind in 6 different ways. Through our eyes, ears, nose, tongue, touch, and thoughts that come into our mind. These are all Rupa. Rupa Rupa, Shabda Rupa, Gandha Rupa, Rasa Rupa, Pottabha Rupa, and Dhamma Rupa. In English, sights, sounds, smells, tastes, touch, and thought objects. Ideas, if you want to take it that way. Things that come into your mind, things that you think about. Ideas come into your mind. So these are Rupa. Then there's Vedana. Sensation. Not the physical sensation I'm talking about here. This sensation is like, it's like when you have, you know how sometimes in some homes, there's a infrared detector, and someone crosses that detector, the bell starts to ring. It's like security systems have that. Okay. When there's a trigger, when that light beam has been interrupted, that sends a trigger. Now the system knows, that system, say the security system in this instance, the security system knows that something has happened. It doesn't know what's happened. That could be a cat, it could be a robber, it could be someone who's it could be the homeowner. It doesn't know what's happened, it just knows something has happened. That's what Vedana is. So when your eye sees an object, let's take the flower here. When your eye sees that object, how does the eye see the object? Light, reflect, retina, brain, sense impression on the mind. When the eye picks up Rupa Rupa, why? Why is it Rupa Rupa? Sight. Now Rupa Rupa has arisen. Then there's Vedana. Now the mind knows that something has happened. There's a stimulus. It's like an octopus. Imagine an octopus with 6 arms. Usually octopuses have 8. Octopi, I think they're called. Plural. Anyway. Usually an octopus has 8, but this octopus has 6 arms. So one of these arms are triggered every time. It's either the eye arm or the ear arm or the nose arm or the tongue arm or the body arm or the mind arm. I'm talking about an octopus, okay? So likewise, this mind is always being triggered through sense impressions, sense inputs even, stimulus that come from stimuli that come from the outside world. And the mind knows something's happened. Every moment, something else has happened. Something else has also happened. It's like a news flash. Like your tweets that come up on your phone. Tweet, tweet, tweet. So your mind's going tweet, 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 tweet. Why? Sight, sound, smell, taste, okay, not sight, okay, not sound, okay, what's that, taste, okay, thought. That's how the mind is, imagine that. And in the time it takes us to do that, there's 1 billion times your mind has arisen and passed away. 1 billion times, if not more. That long. 1 billion times the mind has arisen and passed away. Then there's sanya. Sanya is the identification. This is recognizing what has happened. So like the security system detected something's happened, now you walk up to the CCTV camera, the screen onto which you have plugged this camera, and now you look at it and go, it's my neighbor. Or my son's just arrived. Or it's our pet cat. So now you give it label. You give it a label. This is what sanya does. Recognize what's just happened. Then there's sankara. So sankara are the verbs that are associated with the rupa. So for example, I say chair. What do you say? Sit. I say food. What do you say? Eat. I say fan. What do you say? Well, you feel the breeze, right? So from the fan. I say flower. What do you say? Smell. The beauty, right? So these are the verbs that are associated with these objects that have just come into your world. Car. What? Drive. Rain. What? Wet. So it's things like that. And then Vijnana. Vijnana is the final piece of the puzzle which pulls all the other bits together. The Rupa, the Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, all of that together, and it comes up with a decision. This is the end result. I have just seen a sight. This is what it is. This is the verb associated with it. So it's like flower. The moment I say flower, it has Rupa and Sanya with it, right? Because I can't say flower without having a Rupa associated with it. Yes? So when I say flower, immediately you know I've already given it a Rupa and a Sanya. And then I say smell. Now Rupa, Sanya, Sankara. And as well as Vedana. Something's happened. That's how you knew that there was a flower. And then Vijnana is ultimately what gives the result of all of that together as a package and goes, right mind, here's what's just happened. It's like news that is, that is played on TV. It's like your news bulletins. Events happen in the world, and then your news flash comes on live at whatever hour, and then here's the news update. So it's that packaged up information. That's the function of Vijnana. So Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, Vijnana, this is all your mind is able to consume. Now tell me then, in your lives, there may be lots of things that you will have acquired by now. There'll be property, houses, cars, wives, husbands, children, lots of things that you will have acquired by now. Wealth and gold and jewelry and things like that. But what do you really own in this world at this moment in time? When I say own, it has to be something that cannot be taken from you. Wife, can it not be taken from you? Of course. House, can it not be taken from you? Wealth, child, your pet dog, can it not be taken from you? Your car, everything, my robe, can it not be taken from me? Of course. But there is one thing that cannot be taken from you. What is that? Beg your pardon, madam? Yes. At this point in time, the Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, Vijnana that has arisen in your mind, this is the only thing that you own in this world. That is the only thing you own. There's nothing else that you really own. Because your mind only knows Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana. It doesn't know anything else. So when I say car, what comes into your mind? What has just arisen in your mind? A car? No. Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana. Yes, they are related to the car. When I say car, you will have a picture of a car in your mind. Yes, I get that. But that's the Rupa of the car. You might feel the roaring of the engine. You might remember all these memories. That's the sound or the Shabda Rupa of the car. You might remember the leather that's on your seats and the smell of new leather or the air freshener. You might remember all of that. This is all Rupa, Shabda Rupa, Gandha Rupa, Rasa Rupa, Sparsha Rupa. But at any moment in time, you can only take one. It's either the sight or the sound or the smell or the taste or the touch or the thought object that came through memory. You can only take one of them. And the Vedana associated with it, Sanya associated with it, Sankara associated with it, and the Vijnana associated with it. So at any given point in time, all you really own that cannot be taken from you until that Chitta has passed away. Because are you sure about your next moment? No. You're only ever sure about this moment, right? This present moment is the only moment you're sure about. This present Chitta in your mind, this is the only Chitta you can be sure about. Next Chitta you could be gone. So in this present Chitta, there is a Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana, this set of 5 that has arisen. This is all that you really own in this world right now. Nothing else. Sister. For a very short time. I can't describe how short a time it is. 1/1000th of a second potentially. For an extremely short period of time, this is all you own. One set of Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana. But at the next moment, whether you like it or not, they pass away. It's like trying to catch the wind. How many of you have caught the wind? I tried to catch the wind when I was a baby. Then I gave up because I realized it's not possible. It's like trying to drink water with a filter. Not that kind of filter, the filter that you use at home to make your tea. What do you call it? The strainer. The strainer. It's like trying to drink water with a strainer. Ever managed to do that? No, you can't drink water with a strainer because the moment it touches the strainer, it's going to pass away. This is how your mind works. A 1/1000th of a second is how long one chitta, one moment of consciousness, that is its lifespan, and in that moment it lives, it holds on to Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana, one pack of it. That's all you have ever owned, ever since you started life in samsara. But the next moment you lost it all. But this is the nature of existence. You can't do anything about this. The world is anicca, yes. Udavim vayvim. What arises has to pass away, whether you like it or not. Can you stop your mothers from dying? Can you stop your fathers from dying? Can you stop your spouses from dying? Your children? No. Are they always gonna go after you? Who knows? So whatever has arisen will absolutely and definitely and certainly pass away. Now this is talking about the outside world objects, but think about the mind. The mind arising and passing away, you and I, we can't perceive it through our minds. But the Buddha's doctrine, the Buddha's teaching shows us that the mind arises and passes away at such a rapid speed. And with every point it arose, there was a pack of Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana that arose with it. And at the moment it passed away, there was a pack of Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana that passed away with it. Now, that is the nature of existence. Remember we spoke about building sand castles on the beach? If you're using sand to build a sand castle on the beach, what's going to happen when the water comes in? It's going to wash it away. Only if you like it, right? No, whether you like it or not. Is the water going to come and stop? Hey, mister, did you build this? Yes. Should I wash this away or should I leave it? Is the water going to ask you that? No. If the sand castle's in the way and the water's coming, it's going to wash it along with it. Whether you like it or not. So the world is anicca, yes. These chittas which arise and pass away, because ultimately, remember, ladies and gentlemen, your mind can't catch the flower. The mind can only perceive the rupa, vedana, sanya, sankara, vijnana that is associated with the flower. That is all the mind knows. Like your computer, all it knows is zeros and ones. So does the computer know about Ricky Martin's songs? Does it? No. Does your computer know about Harry Potter? No. But it's got Harry Potter films in the computer. It's got Harry Potter ebooks. Ricky Martin albums. It's got all sorts of stuff on it. Your office documents, all sorts of stuff, presentations and videos and all that stuff. But does the computer know about any of this? All the computer knows is 0 and 1. 0 and 1. 0 and 1. That's all the computer knows. So your mind also only knows Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, Vijnana. Your computer is binary. Your mind has 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't know what nari that is. Do you have a word for that? I'll come up with that next week. That's all your mind is able to perceive. So if that's all your mind is able to perceive, tell me, can the mind attach itself to anything else? This is why we talk about Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, Vijnana. Yes, we see flowers out there. True, I accept, I agree. We listen to songs, yes, I agree. But your mind, our minds will only perceive a set of 5. Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, Vijnana. So if that's what the mind is attached to, what good is talking about anything else? This is what the mind is attached to. If this is what the mind is attached to, then this is what the mind has to be able to let go. Well, what you're attached to is what you have to let go. So the mind does not know flowers. The mind knows Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, Vijnana. And that's what it's attached to. The reason it's attached to that is because of views that it got from other people. Asatpurusha sevane. Association with ignoble, immoral people. Who said, hey, beautiful flowers. Huh? Beautiful flowers. Oh yeah. Now they're beautiful. Did you come into this world? When you came out of your mother's womb, did you know what beautiful flowers were? No. This is why I frequently use this example. Why do girls play with dolls and pink color things and boys play with cars and blue color things? When they came into this world, did they have a favorite color? No. That's how they were brought up. If it's a baby girl, even before the baby is born, parents go and paint the room. If it's a girl, paint it pink. If it's a baby boy, even before the baby comes into this world, they paint it blue. And the cot's blue, the bedspread's blue, the clothes are blue, the shoes are blue, everything's blue. So that little child comes into this world thinking, oh, the whole world's blue. That's all he knows. What color is the world? Blue. And what else do parents do? As a young boy, when did parents go and bring a doll, a Barbie doll to their son and go, hey, Puta, see, nice, beautiful doll, play with it, Puta, play with it. No, parents don't do that. They bring other things like toy cars, little dinosaurs, things like that. Say, Puta, here, beautiful, here, this is good, Puta, this is good. See, Putra, this is lovely. So when a child's crying, how do the parents pacify the child? Angry Birds, right? That's in the 21st century, Angry Birds. But, smartphones these days and tablets. This is how parents pacify their children now. You tell me, I've never been a parent. You should know. Yes or no? This is how parents pacify their children now. I'm not saying that's right or wrong. All I'm saying is, what parents put into this child's mind is, when you're crying, if you're unhappy, if you're unsatisfied, if you're sad or angry about something, don't worry. There are sights and sounds and smells and tastes and touch in this world that can bring you pleasure. And that will relieve you of your vexation. So don't worry. For as long as we have sight, sound, smells, taste and touch, what are you crying about? So hush already. See this toy, Buddha, this little dinosaur baby, see this dinosaur? This tiger, see this tiger? Oh, when it's a girl, oh look, Buddha, this Barbie doll, see this Barbie doll? Here, play with it, here. It's a beautiful doll, right? And those toys that they hang on top of the cot that makes those noises, those musical sounds. When you, what do you call them? Rattles, yes, rattles. You wind them up. Do you still have one? Okay. So the parents come and wind it up. Who are they winding up? This is what we need to think. You wind it up, now it's musical sounds. And now the baby stops crying. So the baby grows up thinking, when I'm crying, when I'm sad, what comes to my rescue? Buddha Dhamma Sangha, right? No, I seek refuge in what? Sights. I seek refuge in sounds. So natti me saranang anyang, rupo me saranang varang. Natti me saranang anyang, saddho me saranang varang. I seek homage in smells. I seek homage in taste. I seek homage in touch. So whenever I'm sad, whenever I'm unhappy, what comes to my rescue? The karma world. The sensual world. Tell me, is this child ever going to think of any consequences of the karma worlds? Adina? Are they ever going to even think about any consequences of the karma worlds? No, because from the day they came into this world, all that was put into their minds was the karma worlds are in despair? No. The karma worlds are glorious. Enjoy. Be happy. And then, when they're the age of 14, 15, 16, and they start getting into trouble, start having fights, start getting addicted to drugs and sex, now parents bring them into the temple and they want us to talk to them. All their lives they taught them the karma worlds are so glorious, and now they bring them into the temple and Swaminatha, please can you advise this child? He's completely gone off track. Sometimes I feel like saying, bring me a stick. And the parents go, yeah, we brought one. Here. Yes. Never praise the karma worlds with anybody. You know what that falls into? Samprapralapa. Sangpra-apralapa. If you praise the karma worlds, or the rupa worlds, or the arupa worlds, if you praise existence, oh, this is a beautiful world, enjoy, live life to the fullest. Of course, live life to the fullest in the meaning, if you take it the right meaning, which is you have now a life in which you can actually achieve something and stop this rebirth cycle. But if you mean, hey, have fun, indulge yourself in sensuality, enjoy all that life has, enjoy all the pleasures that life can bring to you, every word you say is a samprapralapa. One of the 10 unmeritorious deeds. What brought me this? Dasa Kusal and Aripwad. So be careful. Because you see, with every word you say, you're binding that person to samsara, aren't you? You're binding them to samsara. Puta dua, here, samsara is so good. Enjoy samsara. Live life, enjoy, pleasure, indulge sensuality, enjoy. Every word you say, you're binding them to samsara. And any hope that they might have had to rid themselves of samsara, to get rid of this, to redeem themselves from samsara, with every word you say, that effort, that energy that they have, is diminished. And, as parents, you got to remember, they take whatever you say as gospel truth. Because that you are all that they have to look up to. Whatever you say, they'll accept as true. Until one day where they begin to start to think about the world differently. But by then, you've already brainwashed them. So now the only perspective through which they're going to look at the world is the perspective that you taught them to look at the world with. So, is pleasure there in sights? Is there pleasure in sounds, smells, taste or touch? If there is pleasure in taste, do you think they'd have to sell so many different types of teas? Do you think they'd have to sell tea and sugar and milk powder and all these separately? Because otherwise there has to be a tea which is tasty for all of us, which we all find tasty. Why in some countries and sometimes perhaps in your workplaces, when you ask for tea, they bring you a pot of tea that's brewing, and then there's sugar, and then there's milk, and you have to make your own tea. Why do you have to make your own tea? Well, if there's one tea which has pleasure, or which is a tasty tea, then surely the chef has to be able to make it for you. And that has to work for all of us. But does it? No. Some like it with sugar, others like it without. So which one's the tastier tea? The one with sugar or one without sugar? Which one? It's subjective, absolutely, madam. It's absolutely subjective. So if it's subjective, then pleasure cannot be found in a tea, can it? One guy goes out with this girl, the other guy goes out with that girl. You ask the guy, why did you go out with that girl? She's beautiful. What about the other girl? No, she's prettier. You ask the other guy, why this girl? She's prettier. So if prettiness is something that's part of the girl, then how is it that two guys found two different girls prettier than the other? If prettiness is part of the girl, if it's part of the person, if beauty is part of you as a person, then we should all find the same person beautiful. But is that the case? No. Everyone has their preferences. Everyone has their choices. Choices and preferences are just another word for pleasure. pleasurable. These are pleasurable things. So if the world's not pleasurable, what is it then? What's the word we've learned to use? Although I don't like it. Vexatious. The reason I say I don't like it is because it's not a commonly used word. That's why. How often do you use the word I am vexing in social conversations? Do you? No. But I can't use something like suffering because that doesn't cut it. That's not the meaning I want to convey. This is why I really don't sometimes enjoy delivering sermons in English, because I know the meaning I'm trying to get across is not going into you. This is why sometimes I have to use the singular terms and say, when I say vexatious, I mean Perenasulu. I have to say that first and then start using the word. Well, I might as well have used Perenasulu. Why do you have to... I'm substituting words. But hey, that's what we've got to do. Because there are a lot of people who don't speak singular. So it's for their good. Vexatious. Vexing is not a good feeling. Vexing is the feeling when you're in a state of distress. When you want to know something, when you want to find out, it's like waiting for your exam results. Do you all remember that feeling? Results are going to be released at 12 o'clock sharp. You sit at the computer. You sit by the computer at what time? 10 o'clock, right? And then hit refresh. F5, F5. 11:59. How do you feel right now? Results out at 12. 11:59. Do you all remember that feeling? It's that feeling I'm talking about. That is the feeling of vexation. It's the feeling of unrest, unsettled, turbulence. That's a good word. Mental turbulence. It's like there's war in your mind. The battle's going on in your mind. So unsettled. Or a feeling when you see a girl, you think, yes, I want to ask her out. Now you can start feeling butterflies in your stomach as you walk up to her. And now your heart's going dig, 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 dig. I mean, there can't be a man who's not felt that. If you've lived in this world, then most of you will have gone through such experiences. Well, I certainly have. You go and ask her out. And you ask that question, now she's thinking. How do you feel? She goes, How do you feel at that point? That's like torture, right? That's mental torture. Come on, just give me an answer. Is it a yes or a no? Don't keep me waiting. Or it's like when you're watching a cricket match and it's the last ball of the game, and the country in your favor needs 6 runs to win the game. Last ball. How are you feeling? The bowler comes running. And the ball is released from his fingers. It bounces on the pitch. It moves towards the batsman. At that moment, how do you feel? It's that feeling I'm talking about. That is the feeling of vexation. Have we all not felt it? Is there anyone here who's not felt that kind of feeling in their lives? Or you see let's say there's a precious vase you have at home. Your beautiful vase, an ornament or something like that, you put it on the fireplace or something like that, and you accidentally hit your hand. Now, like in slow motion, you can see it falling. How do you feel at that time? It's the most precious vase. It's an heirloom. It's been passed down to you by your ancestors. Your grandmother gave that to you. Now you can see it in slow motion. You're trying every trick in the book to try and save it from hitting the ground. Yes or no? You start throwing your arms out. You start throwing your leg out. in the hope that at least if it falls on your foot, at least you can treat your foot. But if the vase breaks, then that's the end of that. By the way, that's not how I hurt my leg. I didn't try to save a vase. Those days are gone. Yes, sir. It is. So the mental turmoil that comes when you have an attachment to something that is passing away, but you can't stop it. Something you're attached to is now leaving your world. That's what's happening, right? It was there in your world all up until now. How do we say it was in our world? By what means do we measure? Sight, sound, smell, taste, touch is in our world. Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, Vijnana in our world. Now that sight, sound, smell, taste or touch is leaving our world. It's saying goodbye. And you're saying, no, don't go. I'm not ready to say farewell. Madhavas is saying goodbye. Mental turmoil or not? Absolutely. That is the feeling of vexation. Or say you left your glasses on the bed somewhere. Your child comes running into your room. And he's just talking to you. He just walks to the bed. He's going to sit down on the bed. You know your glasses are on the bed. And as you're going to say, Puta, don't sit, he's already halfway through. You can see it slow motion. Your child sitting down on your glasses and the glasses are on the bed. How do you feel at that point in time? Oh, you know the best one. I went through this so much. I was a fan of bitcoins. It's like, if you haven't experienced trading in bitcoins, think of the stock market. The stock market that's in constant flux. Okay? Particularly when there was the financial meltdown back in 2008. When all the banks went crazy. Okay? And how all the big banks went bankrupt and all that malarkey started. You know, sitting in front of your computer, looking at those bars rising and going up and down, going up and down, going up and down, and you've set your targets. This is where I'm going to sell, this is where I'm going to buy. Do you remember that feeling? Just watching that ticker going up and down? When I used to trade in bitcoins, they used to go up and down every day. From many thousands of pounds to literally nothing. So I'm keeping an eye on it every time, just refreshing my phone while I'm on the bus, while I'm on the train, wherever I can catch a Wi-Fi signal, logging back in again, checking my account. Is it gone up? Is it gone down? Is it going up? Is it going down? That's vexation. Pelima. Have you all experienced that in our lives? In some way, shape or form? So lots of examples there. At least one of them has to tick for you. Okay? So that vexation is rooted in attachment. We never vexed for anything we weren't attached to. Did we? Have we ever vexed about something we weren't attached to? I was looking at my bitcoins. My wife wasn't. She couldn't care less. She used to complain. Oh, yeah, every day, so Bitcoin, Bitcoin, Bitcoin. Is there anything else you can talk about at home? That's what she used to say. So she wasn't attached to that. So she didn't go through that vexation. She didn't experience that. But when you're attached to something, now you're concerned about its status. Is it in your favor or is it against your favor? But again, it's very subjective, as you said earlier, madam. Remember, this air conditioner or this fan here, in which state does it bring happiness? Is it when it's working or is it when it's broken? In which state does it bring happiness? Does it not depend who you ask? What if you ask someone whose business it is to repair broken fans? What does he like this fan to be? Working or broken? Broken. So a broken fan brings him happiness, pleasure, and a working fan brings us pleasure. So is pleasure in the working fan or the broken fan? Which one is it? In which one is pleasure to be found? Is it in the working fan, broken fan, both, or neither? Neither. But which of these is vexatious? Broken fan, working fan, both, or neither? Think. Time to think. Which of these is vexatious? Meaning, it has the potential to vex you. It has the potential to send you into mental turmoil, mental turbulence, mental unrest. Which of these has the potential? Working fan, broken fan, both, or neither? Both. Why both? Okay, let's take the working fan. Let's go through the other answers, and through the process of elimination we'll be left with one. Working fan. We are in this room, therefore we like this fan to be working. There are some workers outside. Do they care less? Could they care any less whether this fan works or not? But for us, is it not vexatious? If we are attached to this state of this fan being working, does that not bring us vexation? If we are attached to this current state where it's working and then it stops, is that not a source of vexation? That is what I mean by vexatious. A source of vexation. A source of vexation. Okay? It's like a source of water. It's where there's the potential for vexation to arise. When there's a working fan, if there's a working fan and you're attached to that state, is that not vexatious? Is it not? It's vexatious. Because the moment you attach, now you want this fan to work. For how long? For as long as you're attached to that state. The moment you leave this room, do you care whether this fan works or not? No. But for as long as you're in this room, now you're attached to these fans working. Are you or are you not? Absolutely. So these fans are vexatious. Pelena sului. Vexatious. Not vexing. Vexatious. Have the potential to cause you vexation. But for that you have to attach. They can't do it, it's like a high five. You need both hands to come together to do it. It's like a clap. You can't clap with one hand. You can't vex with just one. You can't just vex with the outside world. The inside world has to correspond. Okay, so then the broken fan. Is that not vexatious? Who's attached to a broken fan? The broken fan? Repairman. He is attached to a broken fan. So he likes a broken fan. So imagine we take the broken fan to the shop, to the repair shop, and we say, hey mister, this fan's not working. I want you to repair it. He thinks, oh, money, great. I'm glad you came into my shop. Now you say, let's check it before you leave, sir. He plugs the fan to the wall and it's working. How does he feel now? Oh, bugger. Did that not cause him vexation? Because what was he attached to? Working fan or broken fan? Broken fan. Then isn't the broken fan vexatious? A source of vexation? Yes. So, if a working fan is also vexatious, if a broken fan is also vexatious, then they are both vexatious, are they not? They are both vexatious. So whatever state anything in this world is, whatever state it is, they're all vexatious. I used to tell you about Jayaratna, the funeral directors. Do you remember? How do you like your mother? Alive or dead? How do you think Mr. Jayaratna likes? Dead. Why? Because that's his livelihood. That's his business. I've got nothing against the gentleman. I'm just saying. This is how the world works. You have a pair of shoes. A good pair of shoes. New pair of shoes. You just bought it from the shoe shop. Let's say you walked into a Bata store and you just bought yourself a pair of new shoes. After you bought it, how do they like your shoes to be now? You just bought it, by the way. You just paid for it and now you bought it. How do they like you to come back into the store? In the same condition that you left the shoe with, or in the completely different condition? They like to see you again. That's why they say, what? Come again, see you soon. What are they wishing on you? May your shoes break. Seriously, think about it. You walk into a business and they say, into a shop, and they say, yeah, welcome sir, we are here to make you happy. And when you walk out, they say, see you soon. You go to the garage to get your car fixed. You got a broken fan belt or something. You go to the garage to get your car fixed. They fix your car, and what does the man say before you leave? Thank you for coming. See you soon. Has he not just cursed you? Has he or has he not? No, of course. He's just cursed you. Why? Because he needs a broken car to fix. So the only way he's going to be able to make a living out of you, is if you have a working car or a broken car. A broken car. So for him to see you soon, what must you end up with? A broken car. So when he says see you soon, what's he also saying? But not out loud. May your car break soon. So working fan, broken fan, they're both what? Vexatious. But to vex you, what must you have? Attachment. To the guy outside this room, he doesn't care whether it's working or broken. In fact, when you leave this room, you don't care whether it's working or broken. But it's in our monastery. Therefore, should I not care? I don't like it to be broken, because then I have to call one of you to come and fix it again. Yes or no? Yes. This is why I say, when I fall ill, that's a bad thing for me. But what's it for you? What's it for you? It's a good thing. How come? It's a source of merit. What did the Buddha say? You attend to someone who is ill is akin to attending to me, the Buddha. So you should like once in a while to see me like this. Shouldn't you? Yes, this is a source of merit for you. And this is, of the last several months, as I was, this was worsening over time, so you didn't see the worst of this last week. Over the course of the last week, a lot of people came and, they gave me medicines and advice and things like that. And for them, it's a source of merit. But for me, it's a source of pain. So is it a good leg or a broken leg that's vexatious? They're both vexatious. When a doctor says, thank you for coming, see you soon, good heavens. You just had treatment for a heart attack. Your heart surgeon says, see you soon. Is it a working heart or a broken heart that is vexatious? They're both vexatious. Is a man vexatious or a woman vexatious? They're both vexatious. So name one thing in this world that's not vexatious. Vexatious means if you attach, you will vex. That is what vexation means. Are you all on board with that? If you attach, you will vex. If you don't attach, no problem. It's like water to an ant and land to a fish. Is water not vexatious to an ant? But what must happen for an ant to vex with water? It has to drop into the water. What about land and fish? The fish has to be taken out of water and onto land for land to be a source of vexation to the fish. But is it not vexatious constantly? For as long as it's got gills and that's the only way that it can breathe, land is vexatious. Yes or no? Yes. If that's the only way it can breathe. Now, all of us, you and I, and every human being, every sentient being, devas, brahmas, spirits, demons, dead, all those beings that we invited at the start of this sermon, do we not all have a mind in which Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, Vijnana arise and pass away? Yes. And do we not all have a mind in which ignorance and attachment can take root? If that is the case, is there anything in this world that is not vexatious? Is there anything in the world then that brings you pleasure? Is there anything in this world that brings you pleasure? No. Nothing in this world brings you pleasure. Pleasure can only be experienced when a vexed mind is relieved from that vexation. A vexed mind is relieved from vexation when this happens. I say, would you like a nice piece of cake? And you say, yes, of course I'd like a nice piece of cake. Now, you're waiting for a nice piece of cake to come by. Who here likes to wait? Who here likes waiting? Waiting in queues, who likes? Waiting for your delivery to arrive, who likes? Waiting for a call from your loved one, who likes? Nobody likes waiting. Right? Nobody likes waiting. That waiting for something waiting for what you like to happen is vexing or not? That's vexing. So when I say, would you like a nice piece of cake? And you go, yeah, absolutely. Now you're waiting for me to bring that piece of cake to you. And the moment I bring it to you, your mind was in a state of waiting. Vexed. It's like a clenched fist. And the moment your eyes report to your mind, hey, cake has just come in. Now your mind goes, ah. At that moment, you feel pleasure. But it just coincidentally happened that your eyes saw cake at the same time. You felt pleasure and your eyes saw cake at the same time. These two met here and the mind came to a conclusion. It was the sight of the cake that brought me pleasure. It was the smell of the cake that brought me pleasure. Because from one side you're receiving sight, sound, smell, taste, touch. On the other side you are experiencing pleasure. But this pleasure you're only experiencing because a vexed mind is being relieved from vexation. That is all that's happening. Remember I talked to you about the example of how when you're feeling hungry, your stomach is empty. How do you relieve yourself of hunger? Put something. That's it. Does it have to be food? No, you just put something into it. When you put something into it, your mind goes in. Your stomach is distended. That collapsed stomach, the stomach which was empty now has got something in it. So the stomach muscles are now distended, and therefore, it's the same thing that happens with your mind. So it didn't have to be food; it just happened to be something. And likewise, your mind is in a state of vexation, waiting for that to happen. I think the best example was the beetle leaf, if you remember it. I'm not going to go over it again. Listen to the old sermons. I think that was the best example I could come up with so far. A lot of our monks began to understand a lot deeper about what we talk about when I went and talked to them about the beetle leaf example. Thanks to you, that came to my mind. Because not one I had talked about before, but it just sprang to mind. I don't know from where. So listen to old sermons. The mind went into a state of vexation. Beetle leaf. What's a beetle leaf? I don't know. I want to know. What is it? What is it? What is it? When you ask the question, what is it? Who is it? Why is it? Where is it? Is your mind not in a state of vexation? Where? Who? What? Which? When? Why? How? Man's best invention? 5 bottoms on a goalpost. What? These questions. If not for these questions, how would you relieve yourself of vexation? I say beetle leaf. You don't have the word what in your vernacular. How can you speak to me now? How can you relieve yourself of vexation? You can't ask me what is it because you don't have the word what. Now what's going to happen to you? You'll burn from the inside. That's what's going to happen. You might set a light. That's what's going to happen. So, understand then that none of these objects anywhere ever brought us any pleasure. Pleasure is the outcome of a process, not a characteristic of an object. And the process is take on a view, therefore append value, now attach, then vex, and then be relieved of vexation. That is the process, the outcome of which is pleasure. Pleasure is not in the object. If you understand that, if you can really, really, really get that, and that has now sunken deep, if it has become part of your firmware, you can't remove it now. It's part of your firmware, not your software, your firmware. It's your living, breathing system now accepts that fact. Then you have become a Sotapanna. Because from that point you no longer look for pleasure in the outside world. Yes, you will sense pleasure in the outside world. True. Do you not want to know what that is? Why not? Would it not give you so much pleasure? If only you got to know what it was? So, when you might experience pleasure, but you are now able to contemplate. I sense pleasure. No, but pleasure can't be in the object. A guy walks up to you and say, "Hey darling, you're the most gorgeous girl I've ever seen." If you're a Sotapanna, you'd be thinking, "Oh, you stupid idiot. How can you even begin to say that I'm gorgeous? Because is gorgeous part of me? Is beauty part of me? Is beauty part of the figure? No. Because beauty lies in the eyes of the beholder, not in me, it's in you. You are vexing. You're vexing, you saw this figure and now you were relieved of vexation, so now that was the outcome of a process that ran in your machine, not this machine. That process ran in your machine. So, you are solely responsible for your pleasure. I have nothing to do with it. Think and contemplate and apply this into your day-to-day lives. This is the 20%. 80% you must do in the application. Otherwise, we'll always be stuck in the 20. We'll not move forward. You won't move forward if you don't apply. If you understood this, then from this point forward until you come back next week, apply. Every time you sense pleasure in the outside world, ask yourself, hang on. I just saw a beautiful flower, but beauty can't be in the flower. So my mind was vexing then, prior to that. And I was just relieved of that vexation. That's how I felt pleasure. Beauty is not in the flower. Sometimes you might have something bitter to drink or eat. I've had quite a lot of that in the last couple of weeks. These concoctions that they make, the Vedamahatyas, and then they make these concoctions, they're quite bitter. So when I drink them, I have now an opportunity to test where I am on my path. Do I feel that it's really difficult to drink? Do I find them disgusting? If so, then I have a lot more to go on my path. See, use these opportunities for you to practice. So don't complain, I don't have time. Because your mind is always there with you. If you have time to watch TV, then surely you must have time to attain Nibbana. But the question is, which one of these two is your priority? You decide. Okay. I think it's about time, so we'll wrap up. I will need someone's help to get the file over there. Thank you. I can't emphasize this enough. Listen to all sermons if you're going to continue to come along to these sessions, because otherwise we're going to have to keep going over old material. That's okay, but if we have to keep going back to the real, to the basics every single time, then it might be a little bit difficult for the regular comers, listeners. So, for those who have come along today and new faces, you're always welcome. But please listen to the old sermons, at least a few weeks, at least 3 or 4 weeks, because there's only one a week. Listen to at least 3 or 4 previous sermons, and that will give you a good foundation, and then we can continue rather than revisiting old material. Okay. So before we conclude, then we will do the Arya Maitreya, chant the Arya Maitreya. I will chant it in English, and what I would like you all to do is to reflect on the meaning behind the words. It's not just a matter of words that I want you to think about. So when we say the sensual worlds are in despair, think about all the examples that we talked about. How the world has been glorified to all of us, this sensual world. But ultimately, there is no glory to be found in this world. Nothing other than pain and suffering. Because there is nothing in this world that is pleasurable. Everything there is, there ever was, there ever will be, is only what? Vexatious. That is the only characteristic of those objects. Vexatious. Because you can't do anything else other than attach to them. What can you do to this flower other than attach? I'm asking your mind, tap tap. What can you do to this flower other than attach? I'm not asking your body, I'm asking your mind. What can you do to this flower other than attach? Is there anything you can do to this flower other than attach to it? Mentally? Is there anything you can do? No. What does attachment lead to? Suffering. So if that's the only thing your mind can do, then what else can this flower bring you other than suffering? If that's the only thing you can do, all you can do is attach. You can't do anything else. You're not capable of doing anything else other than attaching. And if that's the only thing you can do to this flower, the moment you attach to it, now, source of vexation. Never a source of pleasure. It never was, it never will be, and it never is. So reflect on that. Okay. May I and all beings in all worlds be freed from the fire of birth, freed from the fire of decay, freed from the fire of illness, freed from the fire of death, freed from the fire of sorrow, freed from the fire of lamentation, healed with the ultimate bliss of Nibbana, healed with the ultimate bliss of Nibbana, healed with the ultimate bliss of Nibbana. May I and all beings in all worlds be freed from the fire of suffering, freed from the fire of discontentment, freed from the fire of exhaustion, freed from the fire of disappointment, freed from the fire of clinging on to the five aggregates, healed with the ultimate bliss of Nibbana, healed with the ultimate bliss of Nibbana, healed with the ultimate bliss of Nibbana. May I and all beings in all worlds be freed from the suffering of samsara, freed from the disease of samsara, freed from the fear of samsara, freed from the fire of samsara, freed from the flames of samsara, freed from the burning of samsara, freed from the sorrow of samsara, freed from the lust of samsara, freed from the clutches of samsara, healed with the ultimate bliss of Nibbana, healed with the ultimate bliss of Nibbana, healed with the ultimate bliss of Nibbana. The karma worlds are in despair. May I and all beings be freed from the karma worlds. The rupa worlds are in despair. May I and all beings be freed from the rupa worlds. The arupa worlds are in despair. May I and all beings be freed from the arupa worlds. All worlds are in despair. May I and all beings be freed from all the worlds. Nibbana is the only salvation. May all beings attain Nibbana. Nibbana is the only salvation. May I and all beings attain Nibbana. Nibbana is the only salvation. May I and all beings attain Nibbana. Letting go is the only salvation. May I and all beings let go. Detachment is the only salvation. May I and all beings be detached. Being freed is the only salvation. May I and all beings be freed. Nibbana is the only salvation. May I and all beings attain Nibbana. Nibbana is the only salvation. May I and all beings attain Nibbana. Nibbana is the only salvation. May I and all beings attain Nibbana. May I and all beings in all worlds be freed from the bondage of lust, freed from the bondage of aversion, freed from the bondage of delusion, freed from the bondage of Mara, healed with the eternal bliss of Nibbana, 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 healed with the eternal bliss of Nibbana. I want to remind you of this as a final remark. Remember the name of he who hit you. Remember the name of she who shouted at you, scolded you, blamed you, sometimes abused you. Remember the name of he who abused your child. What's his name? Tanha. It's not Sunil, or Kamal, or Sam, or Roger, or Joan, or Nina, or Tracy. No. It was always what? Tanha. Every time you cut your fingers, who was it that pulled the knife? Tanha. Every time you had your fingers stuck in the door, have you ever shut the door of your car and got your fingers caught in that? Oh, it's happened to me plenty of times. Who shut the door? What's his name? Just while you had that moment when you had your fingers there, they were waiting for it to put your hand there. And the moment they saw the opportunity, what did they do? Shut the door. Who did it? Tanha. Attachment. Because these are all what? Vipaka. Results of deeds you've done in the past. Why did you do those deeds? Because of Tanha. Now, do we have a bone to pick with anyone else in this world? Do we have a fight to pick? Do we have any wars or battles with anyone else in this world? It's only Tanha and his mother. Who's his mother? Ignorance. Avidya and Tanha. You go to bed every day with them. Shame on you, sir. You go to bed with them every day. Your biggest traitors. Shame on you, madam. It's time to fight back. Kill them. It's not always wrong to kill, provided who you killing? Ignorance and attachment. Kill them like killing is going out of fashion. Okay. Before we conclude then, let's take a moment to transfer merits of the sermon and this meritorious deed to all those who deserve the merits. First and foremost, let us remind ourselves once again that it is because of the supremely enlightened Buddha that we have the gift of Dhamma today. It is because he sacrificed himself over many countless births in samsara, infinite in number, immeasurable in number. Over each of those births, he dedicated himself, committed himself to liberating all sentient beings from the shackles of samsara. He will surely and definitely have thought of you and I in his infinite compassion. It is thanks to him that today we are able to listen to this Dhamma, understand this Dhamma, acknowledge, comprehend this Dhamma, and redeem ourselves from samsara. Let us also take a moment to remind ourselves that it is the Bhikkhu, Bhikkhunis, Upasak, Upasikas who since time immemorial protected and preserved the Tripitaka Saddharma, the Dhamma of the Buddha, and passed it down through the ancestors, down to us, all the way down to us. And today we have received it in written form such that we may be able to read it, understand it, comprehend it, and find our salvation. So may the merits that we have all acquired today be transferred to them. If any of them have today been born in the woeful plains, may through the power of these merits they be able to redeem themselves from those woeful planes, be born in the blissful planes, and may through the power of these merits they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the Noble Eightfold Path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let us also take a moment to transfer merits to all the members of the Mahasangha, including the Mahanayakas and the Anunayakas of all the chapters all over the world, whatever form of Buddhism they may be practicing. If they are members of the Mahasangha, let us take a moment to remind them, because these are men and women who have dedicated their lives and committed their lives to practicing the Noble Eightfold Path, seeking their salvation as well as giving the gift of Dhamma, propagating the gift of Dhamma to all sentient beings, people like you and I. Let us take a moment to transfer the merits to them as well. May through the power of these merits they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the Noble Eightfold Path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And particularly let us take a moment to remind ourselves of the monks and nuns who are resident in your local temples and nunneries, as well as perhaps those temples and nunneries who you have closely associated with throughout your lives. It is those monks and nuns who have always been by your side, through thick and thin, through rain and shine, always been there to guide you, support you and assist you. Perhaps today you come along, listen to these sermons, come to this monastery, offer dana and so on and so forth, but do not forget that throughout a long time in your lives, it is they who have always been by your side, who have always come along to your funerals, times of good times and bad times, and always been by your side, and also provided Dhampasal education to your children. So they have done tremendous service to you throughout their lives. These are also men and women who took an oath to practicing the Noble Eightfold Path. This is why they don robes, but today they have sacrificed some of their life, some of the time in their lives towards your benefit, towards your betterment, and therefore let us take a moment to transfer merits to them. May through the power of these merits they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the Noble Eightfold Path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let us also take a moment to transfer merits to the Devas, Brahmans, spirits, demons, and the dead that we invited at the start of this sermon. May they all rejoice in the merits that we have all acquired today. All those ancestors who might have predeceased us, who may have been a mother, father, brother, sister, uncle, aunt, nephews, grandparents, and so on and so forth, may they all be able to rejoice in the merits that we have all acquired today. If any of them have been born in the woeful plains, let us take a moment to remind ourselves once again that perhaps the reason they have been today born in the woeful plains is because they sacrificed themselves, they dedicated themselves, they committed themselves to our betterment, our well-being, and perhaps they committed deeds for our benefit and our well-being, through which today you and I, we live in peace and harmony, we live in happiness, but they, as a result of those deeds, have today been born in the woeful plains. So it is now our duty, our responsibility, our obligation to transfer these merits to them, in the hope that they rejoice in these merits. And if any of them have been born in the woeful plains, may through the power of these merits they be able to redeem themselves from those woeful plains, be born in the blissful plains. May through the power of these merits they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the Noble Eightfold Path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let us take a moment particularly to remind ourselves of our parents in this birth, as well as our teachers in this birth, as well as our parents and teachers in our previous births. It is they who made tremendous sacrifice, dedicated every drop of blood, every tear they shed, every drop of sweat that they shed was for our benefit, was for our well-being. It is thanks to them that today we are able to live like this as law-abiding citizens. It is thanks to them that today we have an education, we have the sense to listen to sermons, we have the knowledge and the understanding to comprehend the Dhamma through this medium of instruction and redeem ourselves from the shackles of samsara. So may our parents in this birth as well as in previous births, our teachers in this birth and in previous births, be able to rejoice in the merits that we have all acquired today. If any of them have been born in the woeful plains, may through the power of these merits they be able to redeem themselves from those woeful plains, be born in the blissful plane, and may through the power of these merits they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the Noble Eightfold Path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let us also take a moment to transfer merits to the members of the armed forces, as well as the police force who fought a 30-year-old long war in Sri Lanka. It is thanks to them that today we are able to call this our motherland. We are able to live in this country in peace and harmony despite our differences in beliefs and opinions. May they all be able to rejoice in the merits that we have all acquired today. It is because they sacrificed their lives that today we are able to live in peace and harmony. We have today the luxury of time. We have today the peace of mind to come along to listen to sermons, to travel in peace and without worry. Therefore, may the merits that we have all acquired today be transferred to them. If any of them have been born in the woeful plains, may through the power of these merits they be able to redeem themselves from those woeful plains. May through the power of these merits they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let us also take a moment to transfer merits to all those men and women who have dedicated themselves and sacrificed themselves to protecting this country, leading this country, developing this country. It is thanks to them that today you and I are able to dedicate time in our lives to practicing the noble eightfold path. It is thanks to them that today we have the freedom of time, we have the luxury of time to do this. Also, let us take a moment to remind ourselves of those members of our family who are today looking after our homes, looking after our children, looking after perhaps your elderly parents. It is because of them that today you have had the free time, this opportunity to come along and listen to this sermon. Also, let us take a moment to remind ourselves of those people who work with us, our colleagues in our workplaces. It is thanks to them that today you have the freedom of time, you have the luxury of time to come along and listen to these sermons. It is because they look after your businesses, your enterprises, your ventures. You have the peace of mind to come along to listen to these sermons and practice the noble eightfold path. So may they all rejoice in the merits that we have all acquired today. May through the power of these merits they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Finally, may through the course of this sermon, as well as all the meritorious deeds that you would have committed alongside this sermon, by perhaps offering flowers to the Buddha, perhaps by taking the time to decorate this podium, as well as this stage, in order that it is suitable to present a sermon of the Buddha, as well as those of you who may have dedicated time, energy and effort to providing this venue to those who are able to come along and listen to this sermon, as well as provide transport in any way, shape or form, as well as perhaps provide the comforts like chairs and the furniture, as well as the electricity, the fans, the microphones, the internet, laptops and so on and so forth, the video cameras. In any way, shape or form, if you might have contributed to making this event a success, it is thanks to you that many hundreds of thousands of people out there, helpless people in this world, are able to listen to these sermons today and tomorrow, practice the noble eightfold path and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Therefore, may the merits that we have all acquired today through the course of this sermon, in preparation for this sermon, as well as after this sermon, perhaps there may be some of you who might have brought along food to provide to those men and women who have come along, ladies and gentlemen who have come along to listen to these sermons. So may through the power of all the merits that we have all acquired today, we be able to witness in this blessed land the advent of many hundreds of thousands of Arahatun Vahanses in this very human life itself. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And finally, may through the power of all the merits that we have all acquired today in preaching this sermon, listen to this sermon and getting involved and taking part in all these meritorious deeds, you and I be able to become one of those Arahatun Vahanses, one of those Arahat Mehitin Vahanses in this very human birth itself, in the era of the Gautama Samma Sambuddhahan Vahanse itself. With that firm resolve in mind, the members of the Mahasangha will now transfer their blessings to you. Raga ginnen midetva, dvesha ginnen midetva, mohaginnen midetva, Nibbana parama sukhayen sukhita taravetva, Nibbana parama sukhayen sukhita taravetva, mamada siyalu loka siyalu satvayo, Nibbana parama sukhayen සුඛිතතර වෙත්වා නිබ්බාන පරම සුඛයෙන් සුඛිතතර වෙත්වා නිබ්බාන පරම සුඛයෙන් සුඛිතතර වෙත්වා. තුනුරුවන්ගේ සුවිසි අනන්ත මහා ගුණ බැලෙන් සියලු ලෝක සියලු සත්වයෝම නිබ්බාන පරම සුඛයෙන් සුඛිතතර වෙත්වා. සාදු සාදු සාදු. May I and all beings in all worlds be freed from the fire of desire. May I and all beings in all worlds be freed from the fires of aversion. May I and all beings in all worlds be freed from the fire of delusion. May I and all beings in all worlds attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. May the noble triple gem be with you all. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.